And we're live. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Landing.Jobs webinar. My name is André Pimentel. I'm with Landing.Jobs and I'll be hosting the session of the best tech talent talk you'll be in today. It is a pleasure to host our second webinar in 2023. This session generated a lot of interest, and so it's a clearly sign of importance of this topic and how much it can help companies and individuals. And so thank you for signing up and showing up today. It's really important for us, and I'm sure that the content that we're going to provide here is also helpful for you. So today we'll be discussing how to succeed in Portugal's competitive business landscape while staying tax efficient. So Portuguese business ecosystem is becoming increasingly competitive, and new businesses and entrepreneurs are entering markets every day. So if you are looking to start a business or grow an existing one in Portugal, it is essential to be innovative, adaptable, well-connected. And to succeed in this environment, it's important to understand the country's tax systems and how to stay tax efficient. So the good news is that the Portuguese government offers generous tax benefits to encourage foreign investment and business growth. And so in this webinar, we'll explore several of these benefits, and we'll have some three persons here to discuss with us. And so I'm hoping that you find this actionable and insightful. And to help us to go through these three topics, we have with us Stephanie Freitas, Research and Reporting Officer at Startup Portugal, Tiago Vieira da Silva, Managing Partner at Royal Taxes, and Pedro Moura, co-founder of Portugal Tech Hub and my fellow colleague as CMO at Landing.Jobs. Welcome, Stephanie, Tiago, Pedro. May I ask you to provide you a short intro so that our audience knows you a little bit better? And ladies first, so Stephanie.
Great, thank you very much. So I am Stephanie de Freitas. I am with Startup Portugal. We are an entity that works out of Lisbon and Porto, but we work with the entire startup ecosystem across the country. So our role specifically is to help with upbuilding the startup community. And we do that by providing different programs, support opportunities, training and boot camps, taking missions abroad, helping with different voucher opportunities. So that's a bit about the company. And then for myself, so I have been involved in the startup world for the last, let's say, 5 years, working for unicorns as well as working on the public sector side. So I've had a bit of experience across the different sectors, I suppose. So it's had a very nice, well-rounded experience working within the ecosystem.
Hello,
Thank you,
everyone.
Stephanie. Tiago?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting me. So, Managing Director of Royal Tax. Royal Tax is an advisory and accounting company. We are working since 2014. And we started especially to work with companies in what of the tax benefits we have. I will speak later. And now we are basically working with all the tax incentives and do accounting and advisory for companies. And most of the investors are foreign clients. So yes, we have Portuguese clients, of course, but especially in the last 3-4 years, most of our clients are foreigners, are investors that want to invest in some business in Portugal. So basically, we get a lot of skills with tax benefits in the last few years, and I believe that's one of it.
Awesome. Pedro.
And last but not least, so I'm Pedro Moura. I'm responsible for marketing at Landing.Jobs and also one of the co-founders of Portugal Tech Hub. So Landing.Jobs is mostly a tech recruitment marketplace. We operate globally, connecting talent from everywhere, companies from everywhere. That's our main line of business. We also been helping with employer of record services for companies that are hiring people in other locations. But regarding Portugal Tech Hub, it's basically an initiative. It's kind of an alliance of Portugal's institutions, both from government side, from the private sector, that have as an aim, to turn Portugal into one of the top international tech hubs worldwide. And for that, we're talking about people, again, from the government, tech recruitment, lawyers, accountancy services, legal services, other entities and organizations like Startup Portugal, like, investment agencies from Lisboa, from Porto. So it's a wide range of organizations that are here in some ways, or in all ways, to try to help you have the information and the know-how on how to create your tech team, your tech center, your tech hub in Portugal. I advise you all, I'll share the link in between to go and to download the ebook of Portugal Tech Hub. It's basically a comprehensive guide of the whys and hows to set up a tech hub in Portugal. It goes from, the price of a local beer to have non-habitual residency tax exemption to, how to incorporate your company, the salaries, the average salaries for tech professionals. So lots of stuff. I strongly suggest that you go there and download it. And it's a pleasure to be here, of course.
Thank you, Pedro, Tiago, Stephanie. So just before entering into the questions and on the panel, let me just we want to get as much as possible from those webinars. So do reach out to the chat box, ask a question box on the bottom. Use it. We want it to make it interactive. We want this to be a conversation. We want this to be insightful. We want to know what you are looking for and what kind of information you are searching. So do not stop yourself from making questions, and just share some information about yourself. So we want to understand who are we talking with. So if you can go to the polls, we also made in the end of the bottom of the screen. So that would be great, so that we can better serve, typically what would be your needs. And with this, let's go on into the panel. So we are kind of a 3 parts, not necessarily equally in terms of time, but the first part is going to be a little bit on the overview of Portugal business ecosystem. Then we'll go to why Portugal, why do business in Portugal, and on the third, tax efficiency strategies for Portugal, which I think it's 3 great topics. And so to provide an overview of Portugal's business ecosystem, including its current economic situation and its position. So I will kickstart with a question. And what are the main challenges faced by businesses operating in Portugal, and how can they be addressed? And so probably, Stephanie, I'll ask you to jump in on this one. And then Pedro and Tiago, feel free to also provide your thoughts.
Yeah, so I can talk from a startup lens in terms of how the economy has been quite competitive to the rest of Europe. We have a really strong relationship, and as many people know, Portugal is a gateway into the region in terms of financial support and the socio-political kind of situation that's going on with the EU at the moment. So we are very competitive when you're looking at our market. So we have an amazing talent system and a talent pool. We have really competitive rates going around in terms of wages, and we have an amazing infrastructure that's available. So the country itself is really, for the size of the country, we have a really strong impact that we're making across the region.
Got it.
I might add to it in terms of the challenges of companies. I'll say that the biggest challenge to most companies, and we also need to obviously make this disclaimer because, for example, for instance, I'm more focused and knowledgeable about the tech sector, but it's mostly about talent. I would say that that's one of the biggest problems that not only Portugal faces, but also all countries in North America and Europe are facing right now. And obviously the war for talent, it's something that's going on. It has been exacerbated by the advent of the normalization of remote work after the COVID pandemic. So there are lots of structural changes in the work marketplace that are still undergoing. Just to give you a notion, only the discussion between full remote and hybrid, it's something that is still raging on and will continue. And this has huge impacts in the lives of both professionals from all areas and also companies. So being able to really get the talent that companies need, it's one of the main challenges. And then the second one, and it's kind of a classic, it's the retention of this talent and how to make them productive. Because also one of the things that we have seen in some sectors like the tech sector is there was a huge, a very odd market, let's say, that a lot of people change jobs, from 6 to 6 months, and this is not good because this is not really enough to even warm the seat, let's say, in terms of being able to know the business, to be productive and to add value with their work. So I would say that talent is really the main challenge.
And so on top of the talent and what you and Stephanie mentioned, I believe there's probably some processes and some regulations that Portugal does have that it's becoming increasingly more attractive to companies that want to join Portugal. So how does Portugal's regulatory environment supports the business growth and innovation? And Tiago, probably I'll launch this one to you.
Oh, you're on mute.
You
are mute, Tiago.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry guys.
There you are.
So I was saying that I think now you're hearing, right?
Yeah,
I was saying that let's say 90%, or not to say all of the tax environments and benefits are here for years. What I'm seeing from our experience in the last, let's say, 6 years, was basically an increase of demand from foreigners to Portugal. Of course, we are a wonderful country, but I can make a relation from the Web Summit. We clearly noticed that after the Web Summit, people start looking to Portugal, and then they start discovering the tax incentives we have and the environment we have. Yes, we are a bit bureaucratic country, but it's very easy to settle a company. It's very easy to get a visa. It's very easy to work with people in Portugal. So I think that was the trigger for the demand that we have, because all of the tax incentives we have today are here for years, including the NHR that we already discussed, and we are going to speak in detail later. But I can see that it's like a fancy country, a popular country. And then when people start looking to Portugal, they discover, oh, besides a wonderful country, besides having many talented people, it's also good to invest, and it has also some tax incentives. So that's what I think about it.
Thank you, and that kind of leads me to the point. And Pedro, I already noticed that you put on the chat box the link for Portugal Tech Hub, and probably it's in the book, and so it's another chance, I think, for the audience to get a little bit more about Portugal Tech Hub. What are the key resources and networks available for entrepreneurs and businesses looking to establish a presence here in Portugal? I mean, where can they go? Who should they talk to?
I think it, again, depends on the type of company. If you have an industrial company, probably the best that you have to do is talk with ICEP, the foreign investment agency in Portugal, for example, because you are looking to invest a large sum of capital. You need to really know about conditions in the different regions and municipalities of Portugal. So that's one of the types of investment in that sense, obviously, but I don't really believe that we have anyone watching this webinar that is looking to make an industrial investment in Portugal. If there is, good, obviously, please state your business in the chat box. So, but I think that mostly companies that are coming to Portugal to create their own business are mostly services companies. So we're talking about the tertiary sector, let's say, a lot connected to tech, not necessarily fully tech based, but nowadays every company needs to have tech. But I think that they are most people based companies, let's say, that recur to technology in some way, if it's to automate processes or build marketplaces to use. In that, guys, I would say that there are a lot of options. For example, Startup Portugal, and I believe that Stephanie will talk about it, as kind of a one-stop shop for startups that are looking to create or to incorporate in Portugal. So that's great. Portugal Tech Hub is another initiative that basically it's kind of a gateway to a broad set of people. It's more than 40 participants there from, again, all the sectors that you possibly need to set up your business in Portugal. So I would say that there is plenty, and in the Portugal Tech Hub book, yes, they are all listed there. Plenty of ways to get information, to network, to engage with local entities that can help you. One thing that is also very important, in my opinion, every time that a foreign company looks or considers Portugal as a destination, is to also network, or at least try to get into contact with companies that have done the same. Because obviously there is always some bias from, in this case, Portuguese people, because as impartial as we might want to be, well, it's always a bit hard. But I would say that the pros and cons, the tips and the tricks, the pitfalls and the problems that necessarily always exist, they are much more well identified by companies that have done the same. And it's always something that I strongly advise is don't go only for the Portuguese people that can help you. Also look for people that have done the same thing that you have done, and for sure you'll find them.
Absolutely. And when we take into the main challenges and we kind of give the framework, an overview of the Portugal business ecosystem, what are the regulatory and the key resources? That's, I would say, a little bit an overview of the ecosystem. And now I think it's time for us to go to the why. Why do business in Portugal? And so, Stephanie, what, in your opinion, what would be some of the key advantages of sort of doing business in Portugal, especially when compared, and you do have experience, international experience, when compared with other European countries or worldwide, global countries?
Yes. So something just, it's almost like a continuation from what we've been saying, is Portugal has such a demand of attention at the moment and a lot of interest of internationals relocating or moving or starting a business in the country, that we've really adjusted to creating a soft landing approach at a national level. So we have venture capital funding and government funding. We've got plenty of agencies that are able to help people relocate and help them to kind of set up shop within the country, all across the country, depending on the different areas or topics of that they want to kind of pursue. We've got an amazing community and culture and network across Lisbon, Porto, Coimbra, and Algarve. There's amazing opportunities to get involved with the ecosystem that you're working in. We have obviously the weather is amazing if you're going to kind of go into those kind of standard kind of factors that people look at. But overall, it is coming from experience, it is a very easy place to start a business and to kind of grow roots, to be honest. It's not just a company, it's a lifestyle. People say it's so much more than just setting up shop, but you're creating a lifestyle around what it is, and it really does match up to those expectations. There's always going to be a few black spots in between. Bureaucracy is not always the fastest. You have to work around some red tape. That's natural, that's normal, and that comes with the business and the territory. But the process and the journey of establishing the business in Portugal, in community with the ecosystem, it's really enjoyable.
It's so awesome to hear sometimes from someone that was not. I mean, it's even though you have been here for a long time, we are, I think, biased, but it's great to hear what you just said. And following on that thought, Tiago, probably on the tax incentives, and so this pretty much kind of tax incentives and visa support, etc. All the regulation support. This typically goes to talent, but specifically on the tax into either cost savings or increased revenues or increased margins. And so probably that's also one of the reasons why companies want to go to Portugal. Would you think this is a key factor to attract investors and companies into Portugal? And any other key factors you would like to highlight?
Yeah, I think yes, Andre. And also adding what Stephanie mentioned, it's also, a bit bureaucratic and time consuming, but it's also quite easy to get visas for the entrepreneurs, because some of the people, they can run the companies remotely, but most of the guys that we are seeing, they really want to move to Portugal. And basically it's easy also to get the residency permit. There are a few options for visas, tech visas, entrepreneur visas, so it's also an advantage to attract investors to Portugal and to live here. And regarding the tax incentives for companies, we have I believe it's not important now going into the details because there's so much to say, but in general, most of the incentives out there are for activities that bring some value to the country. For example, if you are investing in R&D, if you are investing in tourism, internationalization, so everything that the NHR for added value professions, so anything that it adds some value to the economy, for sure there is a tax incentive, and most of them are related to corporate tax reductions. So reduced corporate tax or income tax in case of freelancers or the directors of the companies that want to receive a salary, and also for the corporate tax. And the credits of the tax in the corporate, so the main are reduced corporate tax, and also when you have profits, and even if you will pay a reduced corporate tax, you can also have deductions on the investments you make you can also have deductions on the corporate tax. You know, so the EBIT, the earnings before taxes, the normal, can be deducted. You can deduct the expenses from that EBIT. So you will, even if you are paying the normal corporate tax, you are paying or not paying if you have more expenses or investments than the total profit. You can pay a lower rate to your business. So basically, most of them are related to reduced corporate tax and deductions on the profits that will make you pay less or zero, because if you have more expenses than the profits, you can keep that difference to deduct in the next tax year, you know. So most of the incentives related to companies are around this, you know.
And we are going to deep dive into that, because I think that's I think most of the people that attended the event, they want to get
Want to
some
know that.
actionable.
Yeah.
How can I do? What are we going to do? And I think it's really
I
important to
will
go into those
highlight,
takeaways.
I will highlight a few of them. Now, just the idea that all of them are related to this: reduced corporate tax and deductions on the profits, so the investors can pay less taxes in Portugal. Basically, is that.
And that's already a lot.
It is.
Andre, let me just add one thing. We're talking
Sure.
about corporate tax, yes, but one of the main sources or factors of cost for these companies, it's work, it's people, right? So it's salaries. And salaries have also ways to be optimized, especially regarding some perks that are predicted by law. You know, there are things that are basically taxed by the work tax, IRS, in Portugal, IRS, it's the work tax, and the social security tax, and some that are not, that might be a part in some way of the salary of the person that can optimize greatly the total cost of an employee. So we're talking here even before going to, you know, make the profit and loss of the company, and then possibly having tax credits from incentives regarding the company tax, even before. A lot of things can be optimized, but to optimize this, you need to have the knowledge on how to, for example, build a salary policy in terms of what are the perks that you're going to provide. And this is not only a question of cost, it's also a question of what are the perks that you want to give to your employees, even if it's only for employer branding, for example, when you are attracting people to work with you. So the salary factor is also something that can be highly optimized with, I would say, non-negligible savings.
Any references you want to provide there that are becoming that are helping companies?
Well, basically, I would say that the references, because each case is one case in this, it's to contact a partner like, for example, Rail Tax or even Landing.Jobs, to basically go over the possibilities that exist, and then to have help building the salary kits, so the salary strategy that they're going to put in place.
Yeah, and that's something that's great. Go ahead, Tiago.
Just to conclude what Pedro, and adding what Pedro is doing, is saying that basically there are allowances. So from the total payments, the total salary the company wants to pay to any employee, you can split or plan that amount or structure that amount, a portion in real salary, cash, because that's where you are going to pay the higher tax, so the most part of the taxes. And then you can pay also in allowances. And there are a few allowances like the kindergarten for the employees that have kids, the food allowances, education, not only for family, but for the employees themselves. For example, other very popular health insurance that works like a pension plan. There are also tax incentives for the company to pay on a pension plan program that also can be used as a not health insurance, life insurance. Life insurance, yeah. Health insurance is also possible for the companies to pay. So from the total amount, depending on the type, that's why Pedro, I believe he was mentioning that it's case by case, depends on the employee. If I have kids, I will appreciate if the company can pay the kindergarten, for example. Of course, a single guy without kids, the kindergarten, it's not a topic. So I rather prefer, for example, a pension plan or some other allowances that are out there. But basically, it's around that. I believe it was what Pedro was trying to say.
Yeah, because basically you can optimize not just the cost of
Yeah,
the employee, but also in some cases maximize the net revenue of the
yeah,
employee. So it's kind of spending less
exactly.
to give more.
Exactly, exactly. And most of the, just to conclude, most of the allowances are social security free. So they don't pay social security. And in case
So
of kindergartens, even income tax doesn't pay. So it's a good option for companies to structure the salary saving tax both for the company and for the employee to get a higher
yeah,
net value amount.
I don't know if all the people are seeing us understand what this means, but just on the social security, it's 11% for the employee and 23.5% for the
Yeah,
company. So that's
75, yeah.
also almost 1/3 of the cost that can be saved
exactly.
during these measures, the cost for the company. So it's impressive what has been done in the last years, and I'm sure more investments are going to come, more savings are going to come here. And with this, and Pedro, because I know that you have been working alongside with many companies, and many companies go to you and Landing.Jobs and Portugal Tech Hub just to understand a little bit better what's the landscape, what's the market. I mean, companies ask us to help them to bring to justify them why Portugal is better. And so, how can companies best prepare themselves to enter in the Portuguese market? So once they decide that, in the next step, that when we have been discussing a little bit, and we'll go back to the tax efficiencies, but how can they best prepare to come into Portuguese market?
I guess the first thing obviously is to get information and do a comparative analysis between Portugal and other places. Because you may make your decision on a gut feeling, on a guess, but I strongly advise you not to do it, because fortunately nowadays there is data available. We, again, for example, in Portugal, the Portugal Tech Hub book and the reports that we Landing.Jobs do every year regarding at least the tech market, those are very valuable sources of information that give you a full glimpse of the information that you need to know. Then besides that quantitative information, you should get qualitative information, as I mentioned a while ago. Network, engage with local organizations, with companies that have done the same, base your decision on data, on feedback, on information mostly. Then you should basically do some decisions regarding how are you going to start working in Portugal. Because just to give you an example, some companies want to come to Portugal and create a legal entity from scratch and start hiring people for that legal entity. This makes sense in some cases, but in some cases, in the beginning at least, does not make sense. Why? Because it's easy to open a company in Portugal. It's very easy, but then you'll have a burden with that. You'll have administrative burdens. You need to be compliance legally in terms of accountant, of law, etc., etc., etc. What we are advising more and more companies to do when they are coming to Portugal is, if they have plans to really be here, start with, not opening a company. So start hiring your team here, start using employer of record services so that people that you hire have a work contract and have a work relation with you. And only after the first months, the first part of the team, let's say, when you see that, okay, yeah, I've made a good decision, Portugal is a good place, then incorporate a company, get everyone working with legal contracts for that company, legal with work contracts for that company, and do the whole shebang. This is a way to reduce risk, basically. Okay, so because sometimes we make these kind of decisions, and it depends on the size of the company, because we receive requests from companies wanting to create hubs with 400 people, and we receive requests from people wanting to bring 2 persons to Portugal, not even recruit them here. We have seen a lot of this, for example, now with the conflict in Ukraine. So again, there's no one size fits all, but what I would say is that it's always a question of not only a bet on the future, but also you should strive to reduce the risk of the decision of the operation, above all in the beginning. Okay, so this would be the main advice that I would give. And then obviously get into the market, get into the Portuguese context. Don't be a stranger to Portugal, being here. Engage, network, know people. That's very important, because sometimes there are things that can be great for our business, but we don't know them because we just stick in our hole, just looking at our colleagues, our walls, etc. And we need to be out there. Unfortunately, in Portugal, it's relatively easy to network and to know people, and to ask for help and to get help. For example, in this case, and I would invite also Stephanie to follow on, what I'm saying, because their startup Portugal are more targeted for that specific sector. And I think that there are some differences, idiosyncrasies in that sector that maybe are not seen in the market as a whole.
You took my lead. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I was going to exactly to say, Stephanie, I think you can add a lot on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why Startup Portugal created the one-stop shop, is because we saw this influx of information and questions and kind of a melting pot of just like, where do we begin? Like, that is kind of always the question we get. Where do we begin? What are the opportunities? What are the incentives? How do we create our own business entity that can be competitive in the Portuguese and regional markets? So we decided to create this one-stop shop so we could have one-on-one meetings with the people, the entrepreneurs, and those that are establishing a business in the ecosystem, to build a relationship with them, to get them the practical information that they would need to start a business. A lot of the stuff we do, we also refer to Landing.Jobs and to other agents and partners that we work with, because we have such a valuable resource pool of agencies and people that have this knowledge that is so valuable to share. And I think it's really good just to streamline the process and to create an easy channel of communication for people wanting to come in and knowing what the next steps are and where to go, and that we can help facilitate with that.
And following up on what you just said, Stephanie, I think, well, Katerina did had a question, and obviously for obvious reasons, you deal with a lot of startups, so companies that are either just bootstrapped or they are starting from scratch, as well as scale-ups and startups with already a few months, maybe years with experience. And so, what would be the first steps for a company that wants to open in Portugal? I mean, if we can go into a little bit more detail, what would be the first steps?
Yeah, so just also Pedro also mentioned this. It's important to understand the risks and the legalities around starting a business in Portugal. So it's good to have that business plan and that model and that budget already set up for the first 3 to 5 years. Have the team around you that you know is going to be working with you in the long term. And then once you have a strong foundation as a unit, to then register the business. It's a very easy process to register in Portugal. There's notaries all across the country. It takes less than an hour. They do everything over the counter. It's very efficient. It's very affordable compared to how to register in other countries in Europe. So that process is really straightforward. If you're not at that stage, if it's still a very new idea, it's a concept that you still need to kind of grow out and mature a little bit, then we have incubators within all the different cities in Portugal that can help coach and mentor you through that business model to get you to the point where you're ready to register a business or to go public. So there's different avenues depending on what the business is that they want support with, what kind of support that they're looking for, if it's accounting, if it's legal, if it's coaching and mentoring, if it's literally just finding a co-working space or a place to rent for a business, what is the best areas to be working in if you're looking at the tech sector or tourism. So we can definitely help you in those different areas, as well as the partners that we work with.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts. Tiago, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, just basically I agree with Stephanie and Pedro in all. And just to add that following what Pedro said, that the entrepreneurs must start slow or reducing the risk. There is a very, very, very good option to start as a freelancer. Freelancer, basically, it's an entrepreneurial regime we have in Portugal. It's free to settle and easier than settling a company. And it has a very, 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 very great tax incentive in the first 2 years. Basically, just to have an idea, and again, a freelancer can do same business as a normal company, a limited liability company, for example. And to start like in COM as a MVP product, a minimum value product, tech guys know what it is, of course. Probably it's a good idea to start as a freelancer just for 1-2 years and then jump to a company to fill the business, to fill the market, to fill the country. Maybe it's a very good idea just to have an idea. Freelancer in the first year pays a maximum tax net income tax of 7.5% of the total income they make in 1 year, in the first year. So it's just to add this option. It's a very good option, and we are seeing many people starting as such rather than incorporating straight away a company. Of course, it's important because some people have, like I always say, when someone asks for my advice, the first question I make is, what is your dream? What is your plan? What do you want to do? Because sometimes I will say it's the most important thing. If you have some project to develop, a team to hire, some brand to develop, whatever project you have, it should prevail from the tax efficiency. In my opinion, this is only my opinion. So sometimes it's better to start straight away with a company. But if you are just trying to grow a business, to start small and see how the market, how the country goes, then normally I advise to start as a freelancer because it's easier, less risky, and way more cheaper, and the tax incentives are higher than comparing to a company.
That's a good point, a good advice. And following to that, and also to what we're discussing on social security, I have a question here from Stephanie, another Stephanie. So we have two Stephanies with us today. And so, is there a calculator for for cost savings for the company, for the or the total cost calculation when providing a salary, or the net salary variation depending on the options, using, for instance, the kindergarten or the other
the allowances, the other allowances.
The allowances. Thank you.
The question is for me.
Yes. Do you know? Well, Pedro already said that he does not know any, and so we use one internally in Landing.Jobs. I don't think we can publish it as it is, but maybe we can evaluate it in the future. But if anyone knows any calculator, or how to estimate costs for companies, for employees, what's the variation? If they use that then the win is X. Any know-how, Stephanie, as well? I will extend to you, Tiago.
Well, I know how to do it. We have a calculator internally, and I was putting a note here in my to-dos, create an online calculator to help people understand gross salary, net salary, cost of employee, based on everything, base salary, perks, meal allowance, everything, it's really not difficult, and it's a bit stupid that there's nothing, readily available for that.
Yeah, I was not aware that it doesn't exist, but if it's not in Dr. Finances, I'll send an email to him suggesting that he creates one simulator for everyone.
No, they don't have, at least, for example, if you go for the perks part, you don't have them. They have one, but it does not contemplate that, for example.
That's the hard part. That's the hard part. There are a few. I was to mention also Dr. Finances. Actually, I worked with Dr. Finances years ago, and I know that company very well. And there are Dr. Finances and other out there, but they, like Pedro is saying, they only give the outcome. If you want to receive, for example, a net amount, how much is the gross, or if you have a gross, how much is the net, how much is the tax you pay. The difficult part, and it's a project I have for many years, and I'm still struggling to build because it's very complex, is what I believe everyone wants to know, to compare, to see the costs, to see the savings if I put some part in allowances, comparing to the gross amounts. That's the tricky part, because there are so many variables. So I'm not a software engineer, as you can imagine, but I see like a very complex algorithm. I already spoke with some friends and people I know that are software engineers, and on top of the complexity to build up an algorithm to include everything that is dynamic, and then each year, not to mention each semester, the government changes the rules, one more rate or less one rate or a different rate. So it's not easy, believe me, to build a very good simulator for companies to use to compare costs, etc. It's very, we use, I believe, like Pedro do in Landing.Jobs, we have our own Excel sheet that we use, and we know the rates, and we'll put there, so we put the outputs every time you need, and then we have the outcome. But To build an online software with that everything included, it's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy.
Yeah, let's talk after this.
We need to, yeah.
I don't know about everyone else, but I just heard the challenge. That's what I heard.
Yeah, it is a huge, yeah.
So I think we need to tackle that one and create something. Another question we have from Jonathan Firkins. It's are the overtime rules strongly enforced? For instance, 48 hours per week cap in terms of extra time. Anyone wants to take this one on the overtime rules?
Yeah, so as far as I know, I've put some answers. So there's legislation for that. We even have legislation which were news across Europe that the employer cannot call the employee. So it was kind of Portugal is going to limit the relationship between. Well, I think that was again a sign of the times. A lot of hype and smoke, but no fire at all. So nothing really changed, in my opinion, and as far as I know. What I can say is that obviously this depends a lot on the work culture of the companies. And one thing that I know is that the most traditional Portuguese companies, they are really, well, more old-fashioned and more stupid, allow me to say this, in sense of the relationship between employer and employee. And sometimes they don't give a fuck, again, sorry for my language, about that. But sometimes employees also, accept that they a long time, it becomes a regular situation. Fortunately, things are changing nowadays because, even during COVID and after COVID, the work-life balance was one of the main factors that people saw that, wait, something is wrong here and maybe it can change from both employees and employers. And also one thing that, in my opinion, it's very, very positive. It's the progressive coming of foreign companies to Portugal. That this is changing a lot by the force of competition for the talent, the way that local companies need to adapt in terms of their work culture and methodology to, try to reach some European standards, let's say. So I don't know if the question, again, and I didn't understand the nature, if Jonathan wants people to work more than 48 hours or less. So that's a question for me. But I would say that the tendency is obviously to have a bigger respect for, the schedule of people and for the number of hours worked.
That's a good point. I read it as making sure that it is kept, but maybe it was the other way around. That's a good point. And following on the questions, I noticed that Pedro, you answered and you have been very active. Thank you for answering on the chat box to the questions. But there is one I want to bring, and I would like to extend to the three, which is how can we compete with the Indian market? And Luis Teixeira, thank you for the question. I'm just going to brief it to this point, which I really want to kind of poke. Is how can we compete with Indian talent? How can we compete with Philippines? Colombia is starting to be a tech hub as well, known, and it's developing. And how can we compete with those? How can we measure ourselves, and how can we compete?
I'll go last. Or I'll go first if you want. Okay, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
So at least if you're talking about the tech market, the good news is that the talent needs and the talent existing, it's diverging. So it's a problem that's growing bigger. And basically this leads to the point where there is no problem in having competition in terms of the tech talent, because the main problem is not here. Or the main problem is that there's not tech talent enough. The main problem is that companies are struggling to be the ones that attract the tech talent, or the right tech talent, or the right amount of tech talent. So I would say that there's no problem at all regarding competition between Portuguese tech talent, Indian tech talent, Burmese tech talent, United States tech talent, Australian, African. It really doesn't matter, To me, it's much more a question of, in terms of market as a whole, and just to give you some figures, we in Portugal, we have around 20 to 230,000 tech professionals. That's the mark that we are at right now. This represents about 4.5% of the full workforce in the country. The goal, which is very less known or very poorly known by everyone in Portugal, is to reach 2030 with 8% of the total country workforce being IT professionals. So this is, it's from 4.5% to 8%. Well, this is plus 160,000 people working as tech professionals in Portugal. net balance. So between people that leave, people that come, people that are born tech professionals here. This is a very complicated equation because universities and boot camps, they churn around 9,000 people per year. And we would need, according to these figures, around 20,000 people per year just to meet this goal in 2030. So this means that we need to go and get people from a lot of places to come to Portugal to work as tech professionals. There's no other way to reach the goals. You know, it's a mathematical impossibility. So the main problem, it's not so much how to compete with Indian tech talent or anyone else, it's how to bring them to Portugal in this case. This is the problem. It's not a question of competition of tech talent by themselves, because obviously if we go for the Portuguese tech talent, we have a lot of things that differentiate us, the ability that we have to deal with multiple cultures, the good level of English, you know, there are good things that make us different from other tech talents. But again, we're talking about populations, not persons, right? So the main challenge is not the competition of tech professionals with people from India. Listen, the Indian outsourcing movement was in the year 2000 and around that. And, you know, it was very good for companies because they would be able to hire 10 Indians by the price of one tech developer in the UK, for example. It went so bad, man. Really. It was a shitty move, you know. 10 years after that, no one wanted to go for Indian tech professionals. Now things are changing again because there's a higher level of maturity and companies are starting to open tech hubs in India with thousands, obviously, of persons. But India is India, Portugal is Portugal, US is US, France is France, Luxembourg is Luxembourg. It's really a question. The main challenge that we have as a country is really we need tech professionals. That's it.
Stephanie?
Yes, just following up on that, I've also agreed, like, I don't think it's necessarily about how we are competing with other tech hubs. It's more like what are the synergies and where can we collaborate so everyone's winning in that situation. So for example, Startup Portugal has a very strong working relationship with Startup India, and we often do events together. We have a MOU that we've signed together because we want to make sure that we're both growing, because we have a lot of similarities in terms of how we want to develop within the tech culture within our countries. And then on top of that, Portugal had created this tech visa to bring tech talent and software developers into Portugal because there's such a demand and a need. And within our own education systems, our STEM system, which is amazing, we're definitely, our pool of talent is growing much better, but not at the pace of the demand that companies need, especially with a lot of larger international companies bringing their R&D business into the country. There's a growing demand that only continues to get higher. So we're very open to having tech talent and foreign tech talent come into the country and work together with those different communities and different startup hubs.
Thank you. And well, thank you
Can
for
I
the
make a
feedback.
suggestion here? Sorry, Andre, not to replace you, not at all.
Sure.
But I think that this is a good moment, you know, for example, for Tiago to talk a bit about the NHR, because that's one very good measure to attract people to Portugal. And then there's a question about housing, which, but I don't know, Tiago, can you explain a bit about that?
Exactly. Actually, I was going to mention, because from this topic, I believe I'm the less qualified person to speak about it. But yeah, we clearly need more tech people. And one of the tax incentives the government has to attract tech people, yes, it is possible also to other added value professions. But I believe when this was made was to target for tech people. Basically, it's a tax program that anyone that, so the only condition is not being a tax resident in the last 5 years. That's the only condition to anyone to get this program. And it has a flat rate of 20% income tax during 10 years. Okay, and first of all, it's for residents, so this is only available for anyone that moved to Portugal. So first condition, you must turn a Portuguese tax resident, and once you have it, you can apply easily online. It's something that's done very quick. It's like 2 minutes to do. It's very, very, very easy. And the income tax will be charged at the flat rate of 20%, which, believing the tech guys have salaries above the average, we can talk about half of the income tax. Okay, so on average, tech guys with, I don't know, 60K, 50K more can easily pay 35, 40% income tax. So it's a very good tax incentive, and it's applied for, granted for 10 years. And the funny part is, let's say that someone comes to Portugal, stays here 2 years, pay the 20%, and then decides to, which is very common nowadays with the nomad tech guys, they want to go to other country. So if they decided, let's say 5 years after, to come back to Portugal again, they will have the 8 years remaining. So they don't need to stay in Portugal for 10 years straight. It's 10 years, but they can use it during the lifetime. Okay, it's also a very advantage, a very important advantage. And on top of this, all the passive incomes that anyone have from outside of Portugal are tax-free in Portugal. They don't pay taxes on passive incomes, with a comment here, because there is a small possibility to pay only in capital gains of properties. I'm not going to dig into the details when they could potentially pay on capital gains, dividends for sure. And also it's tax-free if the country that is paying the dividends, it's not a blacklisted country or offshore. If someone has an offshore company and is receiving dividends from an offshore company, they will pay in Portugal. If it is, let's say, a normal country, not a tax favorable regime country, they don't pay in Portugal, which I can give you the example of the UK. I don't know all the legislations in the world, as you can imagine, but we have many clients from the UK, and UK don't charge dividend tax on non-residents. And it's not a blacklisted country. So anyone that has shares in some company or equity in some company in the UK and is not a UK resident, if it is a Portuguese resident, it's not a UK resident, they will not pay dividend tax in the UK, and they will not pay in Portugal. Just an idea for everyone. Other countries, they might pay. Yeah. Other countries like our Portugal, for example, United States, we also have many clients. United States, they charge dividend tax even for non-residents. It's like Portugal, but other countries don't. And UK, it's one of the countries I know they don't. And of course, we have many people from the UK. It's a good option to have or to open a company in the UK and receive dividends from Portugal, in Portugal.
So come to Portugal, it's tax efficient. We have good wood, good weather, safe country. Yeah. Set up your business here and buy stocks from companies in UK. That's what I
invest in company. Yeah, invest in companies from the UK. Yeah.
And Tiago is staying with you a little bit on that, and as we talk more about efficiency, tax efficiencies and strategies, what are some of the key tax efficiency strategies that for businesses that are operating in Portugal in order for them to reduce their tax burden? So we kind of touched on it before, but now if we can deep dive into tax efficiency strategies.
Yeah, so I'm going to highlight the most common one because we're talking about, I believe, most of tech people that are going to invest in. When we are speaking about tech, we are speaking about software. So we have a program that gives, like I told in the beginning, it's a reduced corporate tax or deductions on the corporate income tax. We have one that calls the CFID, that basically, long story short, all the expenses and investments that we can relate in the bookkeeping rules as R&D, easily engineers, software salaries, software licenses, all the stuff that normal tech guys use is like GitHub and all the other platforms that people needs to pay to use to work, the hardware. So all the expenses that we can relate that are necessary to develop a software, which is a new product, are easily classified as R&D. And so the total amount of those expenses will be deducted on the profits in the future, and they have 8 years to deduct, okay? They can be on the red line during these 8 years, and then in the last year, when the profits come, they can deduct on those profits all the expenses the companies are making and investing. Okay, so this is one of the most common and popular ones, because tech companies normally they are developing some products, some softwares. So software, it's clearly R&D investments. So this is one of the most famous ones. Other also very popular is the Madeira Free Trade Zone. Companies that have international business, which nowadays is almost all the companies, the corporate tax in Madeira Free Trade Zone, because Madeira has a normal regime like the mainland, but the free trade zone, the corporate tax is only 5%, comparing to 21 in the mainland or 14.7 in Madeira Island. It's only 5%, and it's only applied for the EBIT, the earnings before taxes, on internationalization. So all the sales companies are selling outside of Portugal. Portuguese clients, Portuguese income will pay the normal corporate rate, but clients abroad, all the sales that goes outside of Portugal will pay a 5% reduced cost. So these ones are the most common ones. And then you have also the related to internationalization. You have also tax benefits on corporate tax deductions, like the CFID. To get international, there are some tax incentives. Basically, the expenses that you have to go international, you can, under certain conditions, of course, you can also deduct those expenses in the income, the net income. So basically, like I said in the beginning, all the incentives, or the majority of ones, the most important ones, are related somehow with this reduced corporate tax or deductions on income that will be subject to corporate tax.
And staying with the tax efficiencies, and thank you for adding those. I mean, this hour has gone super fast. It's already we are already on top of the hour, so we need to wrap it up in a few minutes. But still, Tiago, some companies, when they come to Portugal, and obviously if they are headquarters outside, there's often a challenge on double taxation. So how can business restructure their operations in Portugal, or use Portugal, or what are the tax agreements and treaties that we have in place to reduce the impact of double taxation?
We have double treaties to avoid double taxation with the countries. We have almost all the countries in the world, except offshores and blacklisted countries, of course. Although we have with Dubai, with the Emirates. In Emirates, it's kind of in the gray area of offshore or not. But we don't have only normal countries. We don't have with Sweden and Australia. I believe it's the only two countries, the normal ones, not like by normal, not blacklisted countries, not offshores, that I'm aware we don't have double treaties. So the double taxation will be basically put in place with the treaties. There is no way to escape. So to answer your question, they will not pay the taxes twice, right? So there will be always these treaties and these tools to avoid double taxation. And I can mention that, for example, for companies that are investing in Portugal through the company, not through the individuals. Okay, so let's say that I have a company in the UK, for example, and I want to incorporate a company in Portugal. So instead of me being the shareholder, my company in the UK is the shareholder. Okay, so the dividends that the child company, the Portuguese child company, will pay to the mother company, it's also tax-free in Portugal. It's under participation exemption regime, it's called. So also the dividends, which makes sense. If I'm going to invest in Portugal, of course, I want to take dividends from the business that I own. If I will pay taxes, even if I pay a reduced corporate tax, then I want to take out the money and I will pay taxes on dividends. It's quite contradictory, right? So the companies, when pay from mother company, child company to mother company, when they pay dividends, they don't pay dividend tax through this participation exemption regime.
Got it. And I think that's among others the tax efficiency strategies that probably we could use, not only for business but also for employees. I don't know about you, I would keep talking here for a couple of hours more. I think there's so much information here and so structured, but we do need to wrap out. So I'm going to ask you for kind of a sentence, a close statement for each one of you. Well, just to close on the topic. Any volunteers for being the first one?
I can start, but I'll be quick. So again, I will not go over why Portugal is a great destination for you to incorporate your company or create a tech hub or any other kind of activity because, well, the reasons are all there. Go and look at the Portugal Tech Hub site and ebook. You have a lot of things there. But more than everything, inform yourself, connect with everyone that can help you with us, Landing.Jobs, Startup Portugal, Royal Tax, everyone at Portugal Tech Hub. So we are eager, to help. It's kind of a Portuguese way of being in a given sense, and we obviously are very interested in having a lot of people coming here, not just talent but also companies, because it's the way to go to really boost the countries, to open the country to the world, because the world that we're living at, it's more and more open, and either we embrace it or if we are scared of it, things will not go well. So make yourselves known, say hi, appear. We are here for you.
Thank you, Pedro.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just carry on, feel free to contact One Stop Shop and Startup Portugal and the team. We're definitely here to help you. We'd like to definitely make this as a smooth and a soft landing as possible for those looking at coming over. If you have any information, any questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. And this was a great conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Tiago?
Me also, it was very great to be here. And to conclude, Portugal is a great country to invest. Very easy to settle a company. Yes, it is a little bit bureaucratic, but the advantage will overcome bureaucracies. It's very easy and cheap to incorporate a company. There are tax incentives on corporate tax and deductions on corporate tax. There are funds and incentives for startups, like the startup voucher. It's one of I didn't have time to speak about the startup voucher, but there is a couple of incentives to lend money to the companies. And the startup voucher, for example, you don't need to pay back the government. So if you want to start up a business and you don't have all the money, there are incentives to help you. And then once the company is ongoing, you also can have other tax incentives, both for the company and for the employees and shareholders. Okay.
And if you want to know more,
and if you want to know more, I don't want to sell myself in the company, but yes, of course, I'm free, and I will be very happy to speak with everyone and help you in anything I can. Of course, I believe you will share our contacts with the audience. So, right?
Yeah, I think so. If not, we will. And so,
okay.
Yeah,
for me, yeah. Anytime.
And so,
it will be great to be here. Okay.
Well, thank you. And I want to go with this and say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Tiago. Thank you, Pedro, for being with us. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. This wraps up our session. And thank you for your interest on how to succeed in Portugal's competitive business ecosystem while staying tax efficient. And so regarding our next events, we will send up the link for the next webinar. But if you are around Lisbon on the 20th of April, show up at the Tech Hiring Community Conference. We'll be sharing the link. If you need or if you'd like to have a discount, do reach out to us. We're more than happy to accommodate as we can. And so we will also launching the normal exit poll. So do stay tuned and provide some feedback. We want to improve. And in case you missed or in case someone that you wanted to share with missed, we are happy to inform you that this session has been recorded. Will be available for you. You'll be receiving in your email all the information. So thank you. Looking forward to seeing you in the next webinar, maybe in Lisbon in the Tech Hiring Conference community. And that's it. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye to everyone. Bye-bye. Thank you.